the new garbage, and I'm going to call it garbage. The new garbage, if people haven't seen the trailer, I don't even suggest they go see the trailer, because every time you look at the trailer, they get some numbers based on that. But it is the grandchildren of supposedly of the original family. And by the way, both of the families, Eric Montes and his family, and Michael Evans, his family, said that they did not support that project. And even some of the voices that were used by Bernadette Status and the young guy that played Michael. No, not JJ, because JJ, he would go exactly where they're going. But the other actors have said that they are not supporting that show. But on the other hand, you have all these celebrities and stars that look beyond the conditions that they're creating and say, and their justification is, well, we got to work. Well, as Robert Townsend said in Hollywood Shuffle, is work at the post office. You can find some other ways in which you can make and generate money other than doing garbage. Babies in the crib with gold chains on and having a shootout.
Right.
The father, ripping off people in pool halls. Just every negative stereotype that they can create. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, I want to wait. I want to give it a chance. I want to wait and see how it comes up. That's like saying, okay, I want to wait until somebody blows up the neighborhood to see whether or not I live. I mean, it's like, how much garbage do you accept?
Exactly. Yeah.
How many times do a lot of people tell our stories?
Yeah, brother, one of the things I thought about, and I've used this term minstrelship, because these stereotypes, these caricatures of black people, they go back to at least the 18th century, where you're talking about the blackface, and you're talking about the big red lips, and you're talking about the white folks mocking us, dressing up, quote unquote, like us, and then presenting to us presenting to the world this story of the darky, right? Very often the happy slave, the one who couldn't wait to get back to massa, as opposed to the horrific things that we experience. We also get into the age-old stereotypes, the Jezebel, or the black woman as a kind of sexual, insatiable beast. The black man as an uncivilized group. Our families as dysfunctional and not even really worthy of being called families. My point is that these are not images that we created of ourselves. These are images we have fought consistently since we first saw them. Go ahead, brother.
Well, I was just going to say that between 1910 and 1926, there were 4 major black film companies in America. The William Foster Company, which is the first black film company to exist, was created in Chicago in 1910. The Lincoln Company in L.A. in 1915. Oscar Micheaux started doing his films in 1919. He produced well over 40 films. And then in St. Louis, the Colored Players Film Corporation was created in 1926. So during that period, when things were... Oh, and by the way, our films during that period of time were referred to as race films. Right. And I contend that the race films was all of the Disney commercials and cartoons. The race films was Birth of a Nation. Those were the race films. We were telling stories about black love, trying to find ourselves. And for those people that, and this is something I said to my class recently when I showed them my Oscar Micheaux movie, they said, well, it's that old stuff. The actor wasn't that good. It was in black and white. And I said, he produced that film 54 years after slavery. Yeah. Think about that. 50 years after slavery, we were building theaters in this country. 54 years after slavery, we were creating black movies with no training, because there were no schools. We weren't even allowed in theaters. But we endured because, and the reason that I called my book When Blackness Was Golden is because there was an era in which black people were more concerned about the upliftment of us as a people than we were as an individual.
You know, brother, I want to get in something. Then, but I'll let Brother James and Brother BJ get into this.
Okay.
One of the reasons why I think this thing was one of the reasons why I feel this thing with Netflix is so insidious is that Netflix is a global platform. So this is not something you're only going to see necessarily only in America. Very often, Netflix takes these different features and they dub them into other languages that they then distribute through the technology all around the world. I've watched animated features that were initially in Italian, but they either had, subcaptions or they either had captions in English, or they dubbed the feature so that you would get it in English. So to me, this is much bigger than a situation where we're only talking about how we are perceived in America. And these images make a difference. The other thing I want to add real quick is there's a brother who has literally started a petition against this film, against this animated feature, rather. And you can get that at Change. You can get it at change.org. The brother that did the petition, his name is Alistair Fennell. And from what I've seen, I haven't seen any black folks saying, let's wait till it comes out. And the other thing I want to say real quick is it has been misreported that Carl Jones, and this is a brother who worked on the great satirical series, The Boondocks, that this was written by him. He went on social media to say it absolutely was not. Right. That he was called in early on, and he dropped the project early on before seeing the script on episode. So that brother don't have nothing to do with this. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's because he heard the concept. And once he heard the concept, and I'm just assuming this, but once he heard the concept, it's like, okay, well, I'm not doing that. You know, this is just not something I'm interested in doing. And if people go back to the original, the father left the show because of the buffoonery of JJ and how they were trying to reconstruct the black male image. Then after they got rid of him, then the mother left for basically the same reasons. And so the challenge that most of us have that are in this industry is how do you go to people that have nothing to do with you culturally or intellectually and ask them permission to tell a story that will impact their ability to control you. But they're the ones we're asking for money to produce it. And like your listeners, when you make it the pitch for support, our listeners have to realize that culture is as important as religion. For a person to be well, their mind, body, and spirit has to function. That means the same way that we tithe to churches, we have to tithe to cultural institutions. We have to make sure that that people that are creating these environments for our communication are supported, and that those shows are maintained. That's on us. That's our responsibility to do. And so, on the one hand, we need to talk about the good, and we also need to talk about the bad. But if you're going to criticize the bad, then you got to get behind the folks that are doing good work.
Can I ask a question real quick, brother?
Sure,
brother. Okay. This is James. I got a couple of questions actually. I was listening to Bernadette Standers' interview she did. Number one, similar to the experience of Brother Monty. According to her, she said that JJ a long time ago had pitched the idea of a cartoon about good times to the guy that passed. I forget who that we mentioned.
Norman Lear.
Norman Lear, yeah. And so, but that didn't get through from his pitch, but ultimately it got shown here. And Bernadette, she did say she had a little part, but it appeared or it sounded like she didn't hear much about the full breadth of the show. I don't know how much she heard or not, but that's the way it came up. My question is, as you've worked behind the scene, is who had the great idea that this was going to be something really great from starting at the writing in the terms of the process, pitching the writing, pitching the concept, and those in the chain thought this would be a great idea? How does that come about that they say, well, this sounds great, let's do it, and then when they put the trailer together, they don't show anything that would be even considered redeeming value for it, yet it gets greenlit and produced, and the trailer comes out that everybody hates? I'm just curious if you could comment on, what kind of folks behind the scenes is just thinking this is a great thing to do. And then I have one other question after that.
Okay. So most of us in the entertainment business have to build a library. For you to sustain yourself for a long period of time, you have to have a catalog of material. So Good Times belongs to Norman Lear's company. So they're sitting around with this product. And in essence, what you do is you go through your catalog and you say, well, we got Good Times. Can we do something with that? Now, from the point that you say we own the rights to the point that you decide who you're going to hand those rights over to is where the issue comes in. I spoke someplace recently and I said that if someone came to me and I was running a studio and they wanted me to produce a movie about Shirley Temple, who was the little white actress that, in the 30s, 40s, 50s, she was really hot. Okay. And then she became an ambassador and so forth. But anyway, my point was that if someone brought that to me, I would say, yeah, that'd be a great movie to do. But I'm going to show it through the eyes of Bojangles, who's the brother, that's the dancer, that was really taught her how to dance and everything else. Well, that's what they do to us. In essence, when we go into these environments, they find people that will agree with their notion of what we are. But it's Norman Lear's company. And then everybody else lines up because they hear Norman Lear's doing it. They have some sense of what animation is happening with animation now. And your assumption is that they're going to try to do something of quality. But if we know nothing about America, we should know that for the most part, whenever they select something that represents us and they're doing it, it has to be something wrong with it, or it wouldn't be done in the first place. And this is just the reality of it. So how do we respond? We respond in a number of ways. We don't support it. We don't turn it on. And when I was talking to this young lady the other day, I said, so you're going to sit your children in front of that? When I teach film, one of the things I ask the filmmakers is that you have to face three basic questions. The first is, why are you doing the project? The second is, who are you doing it for? And the third is, what is it that you want them to do once they watch the piece that you've created? So if you use those two things, what the hell did they expect when they came out? That we're going to line our children up in a row and then they're going to start wanting gold chains and guns so they can shoot each other up? Did they expect inner city kids to say, that's the kind of family that I come from and that's what I want to see? I don't understand. But what I do know is that we're too forgiving. We're too forgiving as a people. We let them redefine us entirely too much. An example of that would be playing the race card. Why did we allow people to say we were playing a game about race? And we took that on, and we now, a lot of us use that term.